Well, welcome to a special sit-down session. Call it an interview, if you will. But
very special for edition of Hogwarts Radio.
This has nothing to do with Hogwarts Radio, by the way. But
Whatever.
hey, so from time to time, we like to catch up with old hosts of the show and find out what they're doing, what they're thinking, and what they've been up to. And today we're here with the one, the only Greyson Smith,
the legend. Hello, everybody. I'm back.
And we're not talking about Harry Potter. That's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're gonna pull the curtain back. We just did for like an hour. So right now we're not, but we were. Subscribe to the Patreon to find that beautiful content if you guys want.
That was actually gold content, so that might be released on the feed as well. So
good. You should be. It should be put out into space on like a gold record. Aliens can hear that shit.
See, this is the kind of stuff, like, we haven't talked to each other in literally, like, 3 months, so we have to catch up with each other one way or another. But we're here to talk about your newest project that you have, your newest passion project, and it's the long-term project, it sounds like, right now. It's called Another Dimension Comic. It is a comic book.
Yeah, Terrence, I received a lot of interview requests before today, and I told them, no, I won't go to anybody else but Terrence first. He gets first dibs on me in my comic book.
I am so glad. Thank you so much. Hey, you know what? I got a nasty call from James Corden earlier. Jesus, he was pissed.
Well, I said some pretty nasty things, xenophobic things about British people, so I think that's what his issue was.
So let me preface this interview by saying this is not going to be for the young ears, okay? So if you have young ears listening to this right now, turn away. I am going to mark this as explicit on our feed, so please listen to this interview at your own risk.
Vehemently anti-British, so we got to throw them out of the country again. This is ridiculous.
So let's go ahead and get into it. I mean, Greyson, a comic book. Why a comic book?
What is that? I'll tell you, Terrence, I'll be honest on this one. The reason a comic book was because we first wrote this. I first wrote this back in 2014 or 15. I think 2014. We originally wrote it as a pilot, and I was about to move to LA at the time, and I was like, I'm gonna go to LA, and I'm gonna run into managers and agents all over the place, and I'm gonna show my script, and they're gonna, So I thought that was gonna happen. And it turned out that didn't happen when I got to LA. and then we decided we were going to try to animate it ourselves. And I can't draw. My friend didn't want to. It's a lot of work. So we didn't do that. And then we decided to not do anything with it for a while. And then we decided to make it to a puppet show. And then that didn't work either. And then I said, you know what? I want to do this thing. I'm tired of sitting on it. I'm going to do it in a medium that I love and a medium that I admire. And I'm going to do it in a way that I think is not the way I intended it, but I think it's going to be the best representation of it, on a screen. And that was a comic book form. And I love comic books, so that helped too.
So whenever you were writing it, what was going through your mind? What was your inspiration for it?
Should I say, let me say, because we never said this. Another Dimension is a comic book series. It's a comedy comic book series about a teenage Bigfoot, a teenage Loch Ness Monster, and a teenage Jackalope who all live in a small town in another dimension. I practiced that for a while, in case you couldn't tell. It's essentially about all their shenanigans. In the first issue, one of the Bigfoot character, his name is Roger, he joins a cult after he's looking for the meaning of life and can't find the answers in the religion that he was raised with. He tries to find the answers in the secular world and science, and he can't find that either. It makes no sense. And then he joins a cult, which is based around a weird lizard guy who heard two stoners talking about Kurt Cobain and Nirvana through an interdimensional portal in the middle of an enchanted forest, and he based a religion around it. So that is the premise of the first issue of Another Dimension. Now, what was your question before I went with that?
So what was your inspiration behind it?
My friend and I were talking, and we were trying to come up with ideas of something to write together. I love to write, and I hadn't written in a while at that point, and I was really jonesing to do it, and I wanted to come up with something that we both would enjoy. And I was just thinking about all the things that we both like, and we both kind of like monsters and, cryptozoology, kind of that kind of nonsense. And I just started thinking about, having a main character that was Bigfoot, but it's a comedy, and then having it set in this world where all these characters live together, like vampires, and almost like Halloween Town, but different. You have like all these, again, mythological characters living together in one small town. So that was kind of the inspiration inspiration for it, and then it just snowballed from there. We just started going off about all the stuff in this world and how it was going to look and what it was going to be like. So
is writing a comic book different than writing a screenplay or a book or any other medium that you've ever experienced before?
Yes, you have to, and I didn't do this part. The artist that I hired an artist to do this, and it cost whole lot of money. So if you guys could help me out here, that'd be really great, because I'm really in dire straits right now. I'm just kidding, but I just spent a lot of money on this. I hired an artist to do it, and I gave it to him in the TV script form it was in, because I don't know what I'm doing with the comic book stuff. So he paneled a lot of that stuff out and did a lot of the work himself and really got the timing down really great. So I'm going to give credit 100% to the artist we hired for that. It is different, but I didn't do anything different. I just handed him the script and was like, can you please make make a comic book out of this? So that was the gist of it. And he did a great job with it. But I get concerned even for future issues. I think I'm going to still probably do that format, because it's really hard to think about where each panel goes, and he understands that stuff visually more than I do. So yeah, it is different though.
So what has been the most challenging aspect for you with this project?
This is going to sound weird, but putting yourself out there in a really exposed and terrifying way, that has been the biggest challenge. Because
are you referring to like the style of writing, like the topics that you kind of have and the themes?
Yeah, but I think it's just you're exposing a side of yourself that people have not seen of yourself. It's like your innermost thoughts and the things that you do when you're alone and you're typing out on your computer like a maniac at like 2 a.m. That's the kind of stuff that was coming out onto the page and that is in there now. So I think a lot of people assume, not people who know me really well, but people who know me on a secondary level assume I'm really quiet and whatever, and I don't say much, and obviously that'd be true, but most people think that's true. So that's the scariest thing, is being like, this is my innermost thoughts, this is who I want to be, this is what I want to do, and look at it and judge it and hopefully like it. So that was the terrifying part, I would say.
So the immediate vibe I get from this is almost like a Big Mouth meets Beavis and Butthead kind of.
Interesting. I always say it's South Park meets Boy Meets World. That's how I describe it.
There is nothing about Boy Meets World in this.
I beg to differ. It is all about life lessons and about finding yourself. And I would beg to differ on that. I think it is. And South Park, I think, is more the humor that it is, although it's less toilety than South Park. That's not just fair. I love South Park. And the reason I say South Park is because I'm from Colorado. I love animation, and so Matt Stone and Trey Parker from South Park are my heroes, so that's why I say South Park as a comp, and I think the humor is similar to that. And I mean, I've never seen Big Mouth. People keep telling me I don't like Big Mouth, but it seems like really explicit, like really like sex humor. I'm not really that much into that, so I don't know. I don't know what I like. People always say I'm gonna like things. I don't know if I like them or not, but Beavis and Butthead I do love. Although I don't know if I agree with Beavis and Butthead, but I do love Beavis and Butthead. So
okay.
I don't know if I see it though. I think Beavis and Butthead was more in the moment of the 90s. It was such a perfect show for that era, and I think this is more just it's not really generational, or it's not even about current events. I'm more interested in sounds so pretentious, but I'm more interested in universal truths and ideas and questions. I'm not as interested in like what's going on in America right now or whatever. That I'm actually actively trying to stay away from things like that. That's also part of why I made this whole world, is because in this world, there's no Kardashians, there's no Trump, there's no I can't do those easy jokes and those jokes that are heard all the time. I have to do things that are completely off the wall and weird and have nothing to do with our world, really. So it was fun. I like that part of it.
Sounds like a lot of fun. So let's jump into the story just a little bit here. Roger is I guess the main character, and he's the teenage Bigfoot trying to figure out his way in life and what the almighty Jurg wants from him. Yeah,
there's a religion in this world that is similar to other religions in our world, but it's called it's the Jurgian faith, and it's a faith based around this god Jurg, who essentially condemns people to this hell-like place where they'll be sodomized for all eternity, and they'll be forcibly sodomized, I should have added. And it's this really fire and brimstone, hellfire kind of religion that most of the town grows up with, and and understands to be true. And Roger's dad, George, who's also a Bigfoot, obviously, he's very much like, you need to believe this is what we grew up with, and you're going to do this. And Roger is like, this makes no sense whatsoever. It's so stupid. And no one else can see that. Most people are just like, oh, it makes sense, I guess, whatever. I don't really care. But he is more interested in what is actually going on. What is the actual truth going on? And
so he thinks joining a cult is going to be the answer to his question.
Yeah. So he ends up, first he tries science. Science doesn't work out for him very well. You can read more about that. That's a good segment. And and then he goes to, he sees this big banner in the sky that says, looking for the meaning of life, call this number, whatever, or go over here, and it points to this big building out in the middle of a lake. And he goes over there and meets this weird guy who's in a dungeon almost, and has a hood up, and it's very cult-like and very just, we have the secret answers that no one else has, join us and you'll know. And it turns out that this was what I thought you were going to say was the weird part, because this to me is really weird. But basically, like I said earlier, it's this guy. I should say this. There's a portal in this world that connects human world with this world, but no one really knows it's there. But this lizard guy was out in the middle of the forest, and he was praying, trying to find the answer to life, just like Roger is. And he was praying, and he heard these two random stoner guys walking by the portal, unaware that there's a portal there, talking about how Kurt Cobain is a god and Nirvana is the biggest thing in the universe, and blah 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 blah. So he, like some great religions, he mishears something, and then he founds a religion based upon it, and then he spends the rest, the next 2 decades or whatever, crafting this whole cult religion where the followers start out on the Dave Grohl level. That's the lowest level. And then they start out in the Chris Novoselic level, which is, he's the bassist from Nirvana. And then only one has ever reached the Kurt Cobain level, which is the cult leader. He's reached that level. He's the direct link to Kurt Cobain in this world. And then Roger is like, oh, this makes total sense. Let me join this. And that's essentially where issue number 1 ends, is that he's joined this cult, and the issue number 2 will pick up where his friends are trying to rescue him from this cult.
It seems like, okay, so the first page, actually the very first segment that you run into right after the title page here, is a hiker hiking in the woods.
Right.
And it seems like there's, he notices like a little rock slide, and then he gets a crap scared out of him, and he gets eaten by whatever this big O thing is. So my question is, are these 2 dimensions gonna come together?
So every originally it was every episode. Now it's gonna be every the beginning of each story arc. So in issue number 1 and then issue number 3, when we eventually do that, it starts out with a human being who accidentally wanders into this dimension unaware and then gets killed somehow. And that's so this one starts out, this hiker, like you said, hiking around, and he's just in awe of nature, doesn't realize he's wandered into another world, and then he is eaten by it's called this. So we're looking up, when we first did this, we're looking up like local monsters. There's a monster in Colorado called the Slide Rock Bolter. That's this urban legend where it was almost like this big whale that guys that used to go in the mountains would say that it would slide down the mountain and would eat guys on horseback. So that's what that was. So that was the inspiration for that. That's what that monster is in the beginning. So yeah, in the beginning of each story arc, a human being wanders into this dimension, is killed somehow in some circumstance, and then that's just like the cold open to each story arc. I think in another one, there's one where a guy gets hit by a wrecking ball, another one where a guy gets burned by dragons who are smoking weed, and then they're coughing, and then like they're spitting out fireballs. He gets burned alive. Some guy gets hit by a plane. I don't know, lots of things happen. So lots of good ones.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, so I've got to ask, I know we chatted about this, before we sat down here, but there's a segment here where he's in science class, and he's trying to get the answers from his professor, who's a dragon.
Yeah.
And this
Dr. Dragon, sir.
Dr. Dragon, yes, sorry.
Put some respect on his name.
Like C. Uranus. That's brilliant writing right there. But anyway,
that's the cult leader's name, by the way, is C. Uranus. Yeah. Let's continue.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy, this Dr. Dragon character, is just daydreaming.
Yeah.
And he's daydreaming, and it's a really kind of messed up daydream that involves some sexual things with a ghost. So,
wait, okay.
So walk me through that sequence and how you came up with that.
Okay, so here's what happened. I wrote the first or second draft of this, and then I gave it a few weeks, and I went back, and I was reading through it again. I was like, this. At first, the idea was, okay, he talks to his professor. Professor just basically calls him an idiot and tells him to go read this book and whatever, and that's kind of how it ended. And then there's a classic rule in writing that's show, don't tell. I didn't really follow that, I guess, either. But I was just like, let's show something more interesting than what's happening in this conversation. So I decided, I was nodding off, so I'm like, let's have the teacher also be nodding off. So Dr. Dragon, who has a rabbit fetish that he won't tell anybody about, but he keeps bringing it up. He has this daydream where there's this enslaved bunny that is being held by a racist ghost. That's like a slaveholder ghost. It's very rednecky, and he comes in like with his leather outfit with all these muscles rippling when he's usually like this kind of dumpy dude, and he threatens the ghost and is telling him he's gonna. I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil anything.
Right,
but basically, he comes in and shows the ghost, what's what, and teaches him a thing or two about mistreating a lady. So,
gotcha.
so that's probably my favorite. That's my favorite segment in the first issue. It's really funny.
So as far as character development, are we gonna obviously we're gonna learn a lot more about Roger, but are there plans for any of the other members to kind of follow in his footsteps or go on their own spiritual journeys?
It's not as much. Well, yeah, actually, yes. It's not, but it's not religious based. It's more, but spiritual journey is a good thing, like a hero's journey almost. Like, actually, I was talking about this the other day. The first issue and the second issue are very heavily focused around Roger. The next, almost all of them are not at all focused around Roger. So this is kind of unique in that sense. He plays a big role in all of them, but the next one is very, very heavily focused on Mel and Mel's journey, and Mel trying to gain the approval of his father in a very funny and crazy way. It's also about Sean and his relationship with his father. And then the next, Mel, by the way, I should say Mel is the Loch Ness Monster, Sean is the Jackalope. And the one after that, I think it's Sean's journey. It all goes back and forth, but it's all like they all go on different journeys, but it's all I guess you could call it spiritual, but it's not like this religious one meaning of life like this. It's more like, how do I get my father to accept me? always like really, big thing. How do I accept myself, but done in a really funny and stupid and ridiculous way.
So what's been your favorite part about this journey that you're on so far?
It happened so long ago, but the writing part of it was the most fun part. It's not been that much fun since then. It's been a lot of work since then. It's been terrifying to do. It is, you put stuff out there and you're just always wondering who's seeing it. Are they liking it? Are they enjoying it? Are enough people seeing it? Are they just looking at it? It's almost like a blind date. It's like, do they come in and see me and then leave? Are they, that's kind of how it feels. So no, it's definitely, that's the hardest part. The most fun part was the writing and the creating part. That was great. I'd love to get back to doing that. But I did a lot of work on that in the beginning. Now I'm doing all the difficult and not as much fun stuff now.
So how many issues can we expect out of? I almost want to say like season 1.
Yeah, no, that's I think of it the same way because I've written almost the entirety of season 1, which I guess you would call in the comic book world like year 1 or run 1, whatever. I only have a couple more things to write to finish that up, but. I would say so. It's hard to say because I know how many episodes it would have been, but as far as issues, I mean, this issue number 1 was half of one script, and that script was 25 pages. So the next script is like 30 pages. So there's a lot. There's 2-parters. I would say we're looking at like 15 to 20 probably that I've got already like written and ready to go. So I got a lot more left, and this first story is more. I chose this one because it was more, it's a better introduction to the overall world. Mm-hmm. But the next ones I think are funnier and are a lot more weird. I mean, I know this one sounded really weird, but they're even weirder, but funnier as they get further along. But we want to do, we really want the second issue to get done so that we can show that, that this is show people what we're all about and what we want to do, and prove to them that we can make great content and continue to make it in the future.
So your hopes and aspirations for this project are?
I kind of feel like a football player, like take it one game at a time.
Well, that's the way you have to look at it.
I don't though. I'm trying to. That's my point. But so my first goal is to get the Kickstarter for issue number 2 funded, get that one out, and then start working on issue number 3 if we have enough money. So that's my immediate goal. My long-term pie in the sky goal would be I'd love for this to be made into an animated series. That would be my best case scenario, and I would love to do that. But right now, like I said, I'm trying to focus on getting this Kickstarter done and getting issue number 3 done after that, and just continuing on and on until something happens or nothing happens.
I would love to see this as an animated series, and that's the medium that I can definitely visualize it in.
Yeah, I think it's tough because I think a lot of the jokes are written for that format, but I think they translate. But some of that stuff I think would be funnier if it was animated.
Well, yeah, I mean the jokes do translate well. The writing is great. I mean there are a couple of times that I've just full belly laughed whenever I was reading the first series.
Yeah.
So
thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So where can people find more about this project?
So you can find more of our comic book on anotherdimensioncomic.com. You can read the full first issue completely for free. And that cost me a lot of money, people. So I'm giving you a big gift here. So, first issue is totally free. I didn't give Terrence a special deal. He's getting the same deal as everyone else in the world is getting. What you should do then is go to anotherdimensioncomic.com/subscribe, and you will get notified as soon as the Kickstarter for issue number 2 goes up. If you forget to do that, August 6th, we're doing a Kickstarter for issue number 2. We are starting out with a small goal just to prove that we can do it and just to get our name out there and just to kind of build the awareness. But it would be really awesome if you guys could not donate. It's not donation. You're getting something out of it. If you guys could support that Kickstarter, and if you could just check out, I put a lot of work into this. I have spent so many hours in Photoshop, people, trying to make this Kickstarter look really good. I bought a Mac to do Final Cut. I've done a lot of things. I've had to do a lot of stuff. So
nice.
So this is brought to you by Mac, by the way, Apple. Yeah, I'm on that right now. Anyways, so I mean, even just going to check out the Kickstarter on August 6th would be awesome. But if you could support it, that would be great too. The lowest tier, I mean, the lowest tier is $1, but to actually get just the PDF of the second issue, which is 32 pages, is only $5. And that's lower than a lot of the other Kickstarters on there. We're just trying to keep it low and keep it, I was gonna say kosher. That's not right. But I'm gonna just keep it cool and nice and low, and for all you people out there who don't have much money. But we have really high tiers. If you're a crazy person and you have $500 to spend, you can get the next issue dedicated to you. So if you have nothing else to do with your millions, go ahead and do that. Throw us more than that, actually. If you have $1 million, throw us a little more than $500. We can afford it.
Fund the whole series, sure.
Give us the $1,500 we're asking for. But the biggest things you can do right now: go to anotherdimensioncomic.com, read the first issue, then go to anotherdimensioncomic.com/subscribe, and you can get added to our email list, and we'll send an email blast out as soon as our Kickstarter goes up, and then support our Kickstarter and help make my dreams come true, guys.
Well, I'm sure everybody will join me in saying, great. This first issue was great. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Congratulations on it, by the way.
Thanks. I feel like trying to explain it sounds like a crazy person trying to explain their mind. Like I don't know. I just feel like it's horribly explained. But like I said, Terrence, you're the first interview I did, and the studio at Hogwarts Radio looks a lot different than it used to, but it's still beautiful. I mean, a lot of things have changed. I remember when you used to have the fake plant over there, not over there. But I love what you've done with the place. I think it looks great. You've really done a great job keeping this place up. And
Well, thank you. Hogwarts Radio Studio will always be here to welcome you home.
It's a lot more cavernous than I remember. It's a lot. It's a lot more. It's like an old Gothic church. I don't know how I feel about it. But
yeah, we've expanded.
I'm not sure the Dobby stained glass is a good idea, but
yeah, I had to fight tooth and nail for that one.
He has the dagger in his heart, and that's pretty violent for kids. I don't know.
Well, Greyson, thanks a lot for making time for us this evening, and once again, congratulations, and everybody go check out anotherdimensioncomic.com.